Well, happy Friday, Tribe. Welcome to another awesome episode of The Vibe of Our Tribe. I've been really looking forward to today and so excited to share with you a guest speaker by the name of Jeff Benson. Jeff is the owner of Mind Body Cheer and is an expert on helping athletes and coaches and parents through these crazy things in tumbling and in cheerleading that we call mental blocks. I'm going to let Jeff take it away, introduce himself, and tell you all a little bit about him, and then we'll dive in and talk about some do's, some don'ts, some whys, and just help you learn a little bit more about this thing that kind of is no fun for any of us, but it's something that we do sometimes deal with and work through. So this is Jeff.
So I'm Jeff Benson. I own the company Mind Body Cheer. I wrote the book Unblock, The Walls Come Tumbling Down. My background is actually in kinesiology. I was a PE teacher for a number of years, got my bachelor's degree from Illinois State, but I was a competitive cheerleader there. And before that, I was a competitive gymnast. So movement has always been a part of my life. Cheerleading, tumbling has always really been deeply ingrained in my body. But after about 3 years of teaching and coaching, and being an athlete myself, I moved out to San Francisco, where I worked at a competitive cheer gym for a number of years, became a tumbling director, then an assistant program director. I loved it, but I'm not going to lie. The parents drove me crazy. Yes, all of you drove me batty. And I was like, I can't do this. I am going to go get my master's in counseling psychology. And so I became a licensed marriage and family therapist and loved it, but at the same time, my need for movement was still there. So what I ended up doing was writing Unblocked and actually becoming really empathetic and understanding with all the positions that you people are in, and realizing, wow, I missed the opportunity to really connect with parents on an understanding level of why I felt they were being crazy. I started to understand why they were so deeply connected to their kids and the outcomes that were happening in the gym. And so all of that to say, though I kind of blended my background in psychology and kinesiology together for Unblocked and mental blocks, I really now have expanded to do team culture and mental performance, as well as continuing with the improvement of cheer technique and cheer strength and conditioning.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about the dirty word in the room first, huh? Mental block. Will you just give us your definition?
Absolutely.
A bit about what it is, why they come about, or some of the reasons why they may come about.
Yeah. So I follow the general sports psychology idea. Mental blocks are or occur with skills that you own, not renting. So you own them. What do I mean by that? It means you have excellent technique, legs straight, head in, feet together, like 4 out of 4 technique. You've done it in front of many different people, many different times, and many different places. At the gym, open gym, at competitions, multiple competitions, different spring floors. And then all of a sudden, it feels like your brain and your body are no longer connected. That is how I would define a mental block.
Awesome. What are some reasons? Obviously you're very much saying it's not like a skill that you maybe just got this week and all of a sudden you can't throw it, right? So these are skills, like you said, that you own. What are some reasons that this happens and that these come about?
It's a great question. So the most common is injury or seeing someone get injured. But I would start with, before that, typically there are signs or symptoms that warning signs or vulnerabilities I talk about in Unblocked, that show that a child is more susceptible than another. For instance, if your child has always been or has a tendency to be a little hesitant in even like going to a birthday party, and they like stay by your leg when they were young, they don't like trying new food, they're very particular with things. They're more perfectionistic. And when I say perfectionistic, please do not say personality trait, because it is not a personality trait, it's learned. But if they have a tendency to like want things a specific way and they want things perfect, even if they have learned skills quickly and they're really talented, as many parents might say, or even coaches, those are all signs to me, along with pressure, that is ripe for a mental block. Then what happens is they get injured, or it takes them a long time to learn a skill. They see someone get hurt. That is the spark that causes the fire of a mental block. But all these vulnerabilities are really what is causing that mental block.
Okay, that's great. So, we kind of divide our tribe, I guess, into three big subgroups: our families, our parents, and that could be support outside of just parental, our coaches, our staff, and then our athletes. Can you
Yeah.
kind of hit on each of those three main points and things, maybe either do's or don'ts or both, that each of those three subsets of people within our group can do to help an athlete through this?
Absolutely. So I call it the triad. So if I happen to not remember tribe, I apologize.
No problem.
Just so that we all have the same working definition, I'm going to back up just a little bit to what causes a mental block. Typically, what causes a mental block, and then to go into what can the tribe do to help it. To be even more specific, typically what happens with a mental block is that an athlete tries to throw a skill, their amygdala or their little brain stops them because it doesn't feel safe. It's the reaction that the athlete or the tribe has that creates this cyclical nature that actually ingrains the mental block. That is a lot weird words, so let me just break it down. I try and throw a skill. My amygdala is like, ooh, that feels weird. Maybe it's I'm going through puberty. Maybe it's I've been feeling pressure. Maybe I got injured. I'm coming back. All of those little sparks that we talked about lead to my reaction. And maybe my reaction is like, oh, no big deal. Let's try it again. That athlete will likely not stay in a mental block. But the athletes or the tribe, coaches who freak out, parents who freak out, kids who freak out to their reaction when it's really negative and ingrained of like, I can't believe I'm doing this, or I can't believe I've been spending thousands of dollars, just go throw it. Or a coach who has like their ego invested in the kid, they're the most talented in the gym. You're the first one at 8 that threw a full, you can throw a back handspring, throw it, what's wrong with you? That then ingrains itself into the child, or as I say now, it like stamps into the child's brain, what's wrong with me? So now when I don't throw it again, which is a totally normal experience, because tumbling is stupid, no offense. Like it's not genetically beneficial to us in any way whatsoever. It's really dangerous. So it's a normal response. But when the reaction is really intense or negative, that's what ends up causing the cyclical nature. So what can we do as a tribe to help with this reaction? Well, kids, really, it's about understanding that when we don't get what we want, we have backup plans, that we don't see it as a sign that we are bad or that we are not talented. Instead, we see it as, well, let's try and come up with a solution, staying calm or emotionally regulating, to get fancy. Parents, what can you do? Be supportive. When your kid is at, I use a rating scale of 0 to 5, 5 being I'm overwhelmed, I'm flipping my lid, 0 being I'm calm, cool, collected. Parents, when your kid, just a little parenting advice, is at a 5, it does no good to talk through what's going on. You have to wait till your kid is able to get their lid back on And so your role or your lane is to help train your child in that emotional regulation, in listening to them, telling them it'll be okay, you love them. So when your kid is crying in the car that they didn't throw their tumbling, trying to talk through it, as common of a mistake as that is, I am also guilty of this as a parent myself, and knowing this. So I'm not judging you. I empathize, but it's not helpful. We want to help our child calm down first, and then we have that conversation. What can the third part, what can us coaches do? One, recognize if you're using fixed mindset, meaning your ego is involved in this child, that you're struggling. And when you are struggling, model for your child or your athlete growth mindset. Ask for help. Ask somebody who might know more than you, what can I do to help this kid? Recognize that when you're yelling, and this is for all adults, when you yell, it means you have no other tools left in your tool belt. We're yelling because we don't know what else to do. My goal is to never yell, because if I yell, it means that I am lacking in the knowledge or the strategy in helping that child.
And how about for the athlete? Like, what's the best course of action for them? They now hopefully have this parent support and coaching support, helping them, learn what a growth mindset is and maybe work on that emotional response. What's some best steps that athletes can do to help themselves too?
So you and I have very similar value systems in terms of mindset. As I mentioned, maybe just briefly earlier, it's really for you athletes to acknowledge when you're using that fixed mindset. I want to be perfect, or I'm comparing myself to Veronica over there, which is totally normal. Totally normal to compare yourself, but is the comparison that you're doing helpful? No. Then you want to start using and learning other tools to lessen your comparison. I talked about perfectionism. Earlier, if anyone caught on to it, I didn't say perfect technique defining a mental block. I said excellent technique. I said owned a skill, not renting a skill. When we use words like perfect, I should be doing that. When you say things like always or never, those are very fixed-minded terms. I've always been able to do this. Why can't I do it now? I should be able to do this because I was able to do it before. All of that language, though it may seem very neutral, meaning not a big deal, it actually is communicating to our brain a situation that it starts believing like, oh, I should be able to do this, then there must be something wrong with me. I was able to do this before, I was always able to, and now I can never do it. Well, then maybe I'm never going to do it again. That all or nothing language is really powerful, athletes. So controlling it. And then we can get into it deeper, but the final thing that I would say in terms of mindset is make sure you're recognizing and acknowledging the signs that your body is sending you. Our body will always send us feelings, thoughts, and sensations to let us know where it's at. So I talked about that 5, flipping my lid, 0. Your body, your mind, your heart is always going to give you warning signs of where on that spectrum you are. You learning to listen to it is key.
That's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about growth mindset, because I know we've used kind of this fixed mindset term. I feel like you had some really good examples of. And I know we do see really eye to eye on growth mindset. And it's something I hope and I think that we try to implant and teach at Tribe. Talk to us your thoughts on growth mindset and just good practices for that in general as parents or as coaches. Kind of what our kids can expect to learn. I mean, I know in my training, I have to use a growth mindset, right? I'm out with an injury. There's other things I can work on, or it just wasn't meant to be. It's okay. My training's not lost. I'm going to use it for the next one. How can we help implant that thought process into our athletes? And how do you kind of define growth mindset?
It's a great question. So mindset, as much as I would love to say that I created it in some way, it's not. Dr. Carol Dweck really coined the term growth and fixed mindset. She defines mindset as the set of beliefs that we hold or attitudes we have about our talent, ability, and intelligence. To step out, using regular terms, how smart we think we are, how capable we think we are at something, and how skilled or how quickly we can learn is how we would define mindset. A fixed mindset has this unconscious or like shadow thoughts in the back of your brain, ideas that your talent, ability, and intelligence is fixed, meaning I only have so much. So you might find that you use words like, or phrases such as, I'm bad at math. I'm just not flexible. Oh, I'm a side base. I'm not a main base. Oh, I'm just not good at jumping, right? So I see you laughing, Dan, because I know you hear this every day in the gym. This is fixed-minded language. Parents, you may hear it as like, I'm not musical. I can't do that. I might never be able to do that. So you hear the all or nothing in there, but you also hear this global idea and definition of how the kids are seeing themselves. Remind me, Dan, what else you wanted me to share about other than the definition? I kind of went off and I lost my train of thought.
So on the flip side of fixed mindset, then what is growth mindset, and how can the kids, whether it's us helping teach them or the parents helping teach them, how can the kids, if they have a fixed mindset now, how can they flip into, a growth mindset or learn that growth mindset?
So a growth mindset is the belief that your talent, ability, and intelligence can grow. When I first started talking about mindset, I thought I'd be all savvy and like, let's talk about raise your hand if you think your talent is fixed. Who thinks that your talent can grow and change? And all of a sudden I'm realizing like everybody consciously thinks they're really growth minded, but in action, it is so far from the truth. I'm going to get to growth mindset, but I don't want to forget to name this one point. We are not solely fixed or solely growth. It's not a black or white thing. It's actually a spectrum, kind of like that 0 to 5 idea, that your mindset may shift. I might be really growth minded when it comes to stunting, but really fixed minded when it comes to tumbling or math, science. And again, it's not, oh, I'm growth minded in math and I'm fixed minded in language arts. It is, maybe it's easier for me to be growth minded. This is the thing. A lot of people find that they're more growth minded on things that are easier for them. So you don't really know what mindset you're using until you're faced with adversity. Fancy word for struggle. Dan gets to show his mindset when he gets injured while training for a triathlon. That's when we know, are you using a growth mindset or a fixed mindset? So it's all about adversity or struggle. So all of you out there, whether it be performance anxiety, like I practice better than I perform. When I go out on stage, I really am nervous I'm going to make a mistake. Performance anxiety is a cousin of mental blocks. I'm not saying one will lead to another, but for all of you who are listening who are like, well, I don't have a mental block, you probably have performance anxiety, that worry you're not going to be perfect on the floor. Okay, that's your adversity. What are you going to do with that gift of fear? What are you going to do with that gift of a mental block? How are you going to handle it as a parent, as a coach, as an athlete? That's really the key to where your brain's at on the spectrum of mindset. One thing that you had asked was, so how do we get more of a growth mindset? One of the things that I think is really key to point out is that when we're doing mindset training and cheerleading, to acknowledge or hold, we're in a perfection-based sport. So like we're being judged on how perfect we are. So it's not a judgment that your child may be perfectionistic, but they're learning it. Whether it be by proxy, which means just at competition, I'm trying to be perfect, or it might be by coaches, or it might be by parents, or it might just be within their own brain because they have a tendency to like to be perfect. What we need to do as the triad, athlete, parent, coach, or the tribe, is to recognize that the compliments we give one another, the way we communicate with one another, is either going to reinforce growth mindset or reinforce fixed mindset. So I try and avoid, you learn that so fast. You're so talented. You're better than X. We won. That's amazing. I'll give you a life example. My kid was just texting their mom, their dad, and oh, I got straight A's. And you better believe I wanted to like, yay, you got straight A's. Praising straight A's for straight A's, which is what we call product praise, the end result, is fixed-minded. Just think for a second what that's like. If you praise the win, but you didn't praise the process to get to the win. If you praise the A, but not the way that they got to the A, you're praising or reinforcing, stamping in the child's head, fixed mindset. Which I see the grin, so I'm assuming Dan's like, yeah, I know this stuff. Say it again, Jeff. I want everyone to hear this.
Yeah, it's really journey over destination, right? Like praising the hard work they did to get to the A, because then if they get a B and they worked hard to get there, then we can praise that and not be sad we didn't get the A or upset we didn't get the A, right? With that product.
So let's bring that to mental blocks. When you praise the kid, oh, damn, the amount of videos I see from, oh, look, my child's over their mental block. I'm so proud of them. Video. I hope this is the end. And I'm like, oh, pain. That's all I see in that video. I'm not saying to not celebrate, but where was the, I'm so proud of my child for not giving up? That, I'm not kidding. I think athletes who go through mental blocks are some of the most courageous athletes I've ever encountered. To go into the gym every day facing your biggest fear, you're a champion. To continue in a sport despite this big brick wall and like run up against it, you're tough. If we as the tribe are uplifting those athletes and telling and showing in action, like, I'm so impressed by your willingness to deal with adversity, it makes going through that process so much less intense, but it also helps to change the mindset from fixed to growth. And then the best piece, which is my value system, will help them set themselves up to be more successful in life.
Well, I know one question I had. Can you share maybe just like one success story that comes to your mind of maybe an athlete that you've helped, and just maybe how you helped get them there?
Absolutely. So I'm going to try and do this fast because I have two.
No
The
problem.
first one is an example of an athlete who never got over their mental block. She and I worked together for 8-10 months. She was a 8th grader at the time. She worked. Her mom was a coach, so we did our explaining of mindset and all of these tools and techniques, and she'd get frustrated, but she'd get out of it, and then she'd cycle back in. And I explained every single time, you're cycling back in because of that response to the mental block. Instead of being kind to your little brain, you got really upset. And we did that time and time again. Eventually, she went to high school. She cheered in high school, but she stopped all-star. So she continued with cheer, but she really tried a different sport. And she ended up trying basketball. And, you know, it's been 5 years. She ended up getting a college scholarship to basketball. Cheered all 4 years of high school and wrote her college essay on how going through a mental block was the very best thing that's ever happened to her. even though she never got out of it. That, parents, is an explanation of growth mindset. Even though the thing you wanted so bad didn't quite happen, you were able to take that as a learning lesson to catapult you further. Maybe that could be the only one, but I also have another athlete who was able to free themselves from their mental block, but it did. It took 3 years of working together and then graduating is what I call it, meaning she's doing it on her own. And then I get a call from mom 6 months later. Oh, she's back in it. But no, cycle back. But this athlete, every single time I talk to her, it is, I realize this is an opportunity and I wasn't using my strategy. She owns it. I wasn't using my strategies. Hey, Jeff, can we get a refresher? Kind of like going to the dentist every 6 months. I might floss and brush, but I might still have a cavity. So I go and see someone who can help refresh what I need to do. So at that point, she was, oh gosh, a freshman in high school and struggling with a back handspring. And now she's throwing standing fulls and running fulls on the hard floor. So she got 4th in state in diving during COVID because they didn't have a cheer team, like the girl who never dove before. Yeah.
Awesome.
They're 2 success stories for you.
That's great. Well, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I greatly appreciate it. And I know our families and followers will too, but can you just tell everyone, like maybe remind everyone the name of your book and then your website and just kind of that way of contact if anyone wants to reach out. I know you're doing some different clinics and things kind of right now that I've seen on your Facebook. So if you want to just fill everyone in on kind of what you do and how they can be involved if they'd like to.
Sure. So Unblocked, The Walls Come Tumbling Down is available on Amazon. I'm currently working on a workbook series, so it's more geared towards athletes. But because of what you kind of mentioned, I'm also doing a 30-day mental block workshop, which is essentially just doing an online course working with athletes with all the same principles of Unblocked in my workbook, but like this virtually, and I've got a library of skills that they can just reference when they need it. I haven't been able to finish the workbook series yet, but I'm gonna do it because I want to. And then I'm also doing a 90-minute mental block sports psychology training for coaches this Saturday. Yeah. So you can reach out to me if anybody has any questions at mindbodycheer@gmail.com, and my website is the same, mindbodycheer.com.
Awesome, man. Well, I greatly appreciate it. It was great to catch up with you.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing your expertise. I hope you have a great rest of your day, man.